Rassie Erasmus has once again found himself at the center of rugby's biggest talking point, and as the anticipation builds ahead of another chapter in the historic rivalry between the Springboks and the All Blacks, the South African coach has managed to shift attention away from team selections, tactics, and form, and onto the conversation surrounding the game itself. Just days before the two rugby giants meet on the field, debate is already raging across both countries, with opinions divided over the latest move from the Springboks head coach. During a press conference that quickly grabbed headlines, Erasmus appeared alongside former international referee Jaco Peyper, who is now working within the Springboks setup. The decision immediately sparked discussion throughout the rugby world, with many observers believing it was a carefully planned move designed to address concerns surrounding match management and game flow. While critics questioned the timing and intention behind the appearance, others saw it as another example of Erasmus using the media stage to influence the wider rugby conversation. One person who appeared surprisingly impressed by the strategy was former All Blacks star Israel Dagg. Speaking ahead of the highly anticipated test match, Dagg admitted that despite previously viewing some of Erasmus' methods with skepticism, he has gradually become more appreciative of the way the Springboks coach operates. According to Dagg, there is something fascinating about the confidence and unpredictability that Erasmus brings to modern rugby. He suggested that whether people agree with him or not, the South African coach has a unique ability to keep fans, players, and media engaged. For Dagg, the decision to bring Peyper into the spotlight was not accidental. Instead, he viewed it as a calculated move from a coach who fully understood the questions that were likely to be asked and who wanted to shape the discussion before it could be shaped by others. As a result, the press conference became one of the most talked about rugby events of the week, despite no rugby actually being played. What makes the situation particularly interesting is that it highlights the growing importance of narratives in modern sport. International rugby is no longer only about what happens during the 80 minutes on the field. Coaches, players, analysts, and media personalities all play a role in influencing how matches are viewed before they even begin. In that environment, few coaches have proven more effective than Erasmus. Over the years, he has developed a reputation for challenging conventional approaches, questioning established systems, and ensuring that conversations around rugby remain active. Supporters argue that his willingness to speak openly creates transparency and sparks healthy debate. Critics, meanwhile, believe that some of his tactics can place unnecessary pressure on officials and distract from the game itself. Regardless of where opinions fall, one thing remains clear: people continue talking about him. While Dagg seemed entertained by the latest developments, broadcaster Scotty Stevenson offered a different perspective. He acknowledged the value that someone like Jaco Peyper can bring to a coaching environment, particularly given his years of experience as an elite referee. However, Stevenson argued that the real issue being discussed by critics of the Springboks was not fully addressed during the press conference. In his view, the debate was never simply about how long teams take to form scrums or organize lineouts. Instead, he suggested that the broader concern involves how teams manage the pace of matches during live play and whether certain tactics can slow momentum at key moments. According to Stevenson, the discussion had effectively been redirected toward a different argument, creating what he described as a diversion from the original point. Yet even while criticizing the approach, he admitted that it demonstrated a level of strategic awareness that has become a hallmark of Erasmus' coaching career. This contrast in viewpoints perfectly captures why the Springboks coach remains such a fascinating figure in world rugby. For every critic who questions his methods, there is someone else who admires his creativity and confidence. The result is a constant cycle of debate that keeps him firmly in the spotlight. What cannot be ignored, however, is the success that has accompanied his tenure. Under Erasmus, South Africa has enjoyed one of the most successful periods in its rugby history. The Springboks have consistently challenged the world's best teams and established themselves as a dominant force on the international stage. Success naturally brings attention, and attention inevitably brings scrutiny. As a result, every public appearance, interview, or press conference involving Erasmus tends to generate headlines. This latest episode is simply another example of how closely his words and actions are followed across the rugby world. Meanwhile, the timing of the discussion adds another layer of intrigue. The rivalry between the Springboks and the All Blacks has always carried enormous significance. It is a rivalry built on decades of history, iconic matches, legendary players, and intense competition. Whenever these two teams prepare to meet, emotions run high and every detail becomes a topic of analysis. Coaches search for advantages, players prepare for physical battles, and supporters eagerly debate every possible outcome. In such an environment, even the smallest storyline can quickly become a major talking point. That is exactly what has happened here. Instead of focusing solely on team news or tactical previews, rugby fans around the world are discussing media strategy, refereeing perspectives, and psychological gamesmanship. Whether intentional or not, the spotlight has shifted. Looking ahead to the match itself, many observers believe that the real answers will ultimately come on the field. Media discussions can influence narratives, but performances determine results. The Springboks will be looking to continue their impressive momentum, while the All Blacks will aim to remind everyone why they remain one of rugby's most respected teams. Both sides possess world-class talent, experienced leadership, and proven winning cultures. That combination creates the perfect stage for another memorable encounter. Yet even as anticipation grows for kickoff, the conversation surrounding Rassie Erasmus continues to dominate headlines. His ability to spark debate, challenge assumptions, and keep rugby fans engaged has once again been demonstrated. Some view it as masterful communication. Others see it as calculated distraction. Either way, it has succeeded in capturing attention across the rugby landscape. Perhaps that is why figures like Israel Dagg find themselves increasingly intrigued by him. In an era where sports personalities often stick to carefully managed talking points, Erasmus remains unpredictable. He says what he believes, embraces controversy when necessary, and rarely seems concerned about whether his comments will generate criticism. That approach may not appeal to everyone, but it undoubtedly keeps people watching. As the countdown to another massive Springboks versus All Blacks showdown continues, fans can expect the discussions to intensify. Questions about tactics, refereeing, game management, and psychological battles will continue to fill headlines. Yet when the whistle finally blows, the focus will return to the players and the contest itself. Until then, the rugby world remains captivated by the latest chapter in the ongoing story of Rassie Erasmus, a coach whose influence extends far beyond the touchline and whose ability to shape conversations remains